That's fine to clean up. On the island of Sodor, the trains are really useful. They are really useful in North America too, while they pull passengers and freight of where they need to go. The Downeaster and Haverhill line go onto the New Hampshire-Massachusetts border, because that's why they are really useful. One afternoon, Mr. Cakeshire came to see Becky and the 5 engines. "Today, you 6, he said, "I'd like you to pull a train of 100 freight cars today." "Yes, sir," Becky said. All the engines were excited. Mr. Cakeshire soon left, and Becky felt excited. "We have to get going," said Sam. And all the engines steamed off to the rail yard. "We have to get there soon," Nevy said. Soon Becky was in the yard when she saw the whole long line. "We have to go," said Scruffy. "The troublesome trucks can be troublesome." "Then we should," said the 6 engines. Soon, Becky, Dwee, Lauren, Sam, and Sasha and Mevy buffered up, and they steamed off to the Vickerstown goods yard. "Let's go faster," laughed the troublesome trucks. The troublesome trucks were up to their old tricks. "We're clicking along," Sasha said, and the freight cars clattered along the line. It was a long train. "We have to get there before dark," said Dwee. "We do," said Becky. "'Cause the trailing engines can be really useful." A few minutes later, Sir Topham Hatt came to see the big women engines in the yard. "Today, you 8, he said, "I'd like you to collect a long train of 187 cars." The engines were excited. I thought I looked at Sandy. "I'd love to take the way in front of Vanessa, sir," Sandy said. Just then, Tilly pulled up. "When you leave the rail yard," she said, "make room for Farnsworth, 'cause he has a train." "Thank you," said Sally. And with that, Tilly puffed away. Soon, the 8 engines buffered up to their cars, and they were ready. "Let's go," said Sandy. "All aboard!" And the whole big train steamed away. "We must get going," said Vanessa. "We should," said Caitlin. "We won't run into that car again," said Abby. "We won't," said Mercedes. "No, we won't," said Mimi. "Let's go," said the 8 engines. And they steamed off into the distance. Meanwhile, Becky, Dwee, Lauren, Sam, Sasha, and Nevy arrived in the desert. It was big. "It sure is hot in the desert," laughed the troublesome trucks. On, faster, faster!" And they saw Sandy. "Oh no!" cried Sandy. "We're gonna run the red signal!" cried Becky. Her driver threw his women engines into emergency braking. And then it was too late! Fire exploded. "Everyone evacuate!" called Becky in her big voice. And Becky turned onto her side with the others, and the giant explosive went off violently. And Edward was surprised. Luckily, no one was hurt, but the freight cars had tipped over, and the loads were ruined. "This is such a horrific crash," Becky said. "'Cause we can't use strong language like this," said the four engines. Becky had noticed that Caitlin and Abby were squished, and Vanessa had jackknifed. "I don't like this," Mimi said. "Neither do I," said Mercedes. Vanessa was upset, stuck. Julie had turned on her side. And Sandy was the only engine that did not derail. "I'm glad they're all right," puffed James, "'cause we're not allowed to pass the board." "We're not allowed... We can do it," said Toby, but he was worried. "Those engines hadn't crashed," said Toby. "They could have been hurt or worse," said James. And they steamed off back to where they started from. And they steamed off. A few days later, Becky, Dwee, Lauren, Sam, Mevi, and Sasha were all repaired and pulling freight cars again. The freight cars were full of lots of natural stuff that was less aggressive than the crash and wreck. And they were rebuilt. Women engines pulled freight cars and coaches because they're mixed traffic engines. Because they pull strong weight against their tenders or bunkers. And because the trains are really useful, they always do a good job getting their power from where they need to get it from. And even though how bad the accident was, the engines are always going to hope that something like that is never repeated.